What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Casey Cooley.
Hello, everybody.
And Cody Geiler.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Who has stolen Boba Fett's helmet.
And the child.
Yeah. And the child.
Yeah. I got them both. Yeah. Just collecting over here.
Yes. That is awesome.
I figure they're both worth a lot of credits, so you know.
Yeah. You're doing good.
I mean, you're starting to gather. You're trying to get there. I see. You're trying to get there.
Slowly. It's like I've been relegated to this is my one spot in the house where I can have my collection. I mean, you can't see some of my figures and books and things, some Legends books and stuff like that. But
nice. Cody, long time. Welcome back.
It's great to be back.
We got a great topic. Obviously, we'll talk about a lot in this episode, which is the return of The Mandalorian Season 2. We're only a couple days away from the second episode, which we will talk about also in this episode of Inside the Force. Thanks for joining us. We are going to just breeze through some of the latest news a little bit here and there before we get to Mandalorian, because there is a lot to dive into there. First things first, though, I want to talk about, honestly, a game that I am... Well, speaking of games, actually, before I get into that, I haven't checked with you, Cody. Have you dived into Squadrons yet at all?
I actually have not. I've been seeing a lot of people getting into it. I've watched a lot of videos of some gameplay of people playing it just to try to get into a little bit of the feel of it in the story. But I'll probably get into it in the holiday season as there's some downtime and stuff like that. Haven't had as much time for gaming, but I'm always interested in games and Star Wars games especially.
Yeah, especially. I've mentioned this on here. I've done the campaign. I'm almost to the end of it, but I haven't actually done the multiplayer. And I've read that it actually is cross-platform. So we could form our own little squadron.
Squad up?
For real?
Squad, Dave.
Yeah. So, the three of us, we can get Corey and then
call sign.
And then actually the Mandalore podcast host, so Martin Donaldson over there, he can get on he's a PC gamer. So as far as I read, PC, Xbox, PS4, boom.
I feel like Squadrons has built a really good fan base by doing little things like that, like helping the community all play together. It seems like all the stuff I've seen about it's been really positive. So I've been super interested to dive into it. Yeah,
I'm not as bothered by the cockpit view as much as I thought I would be. It's actually not that bad. It's because I feel like they've made it a little bit bigger so that the window so you actually could see pretty well out of it. I didn't feel like that was the case when in the first Battlefront game or in the second one, because you can switch between third person and first person view. And I felt like the first person view, you just didn't get a lot of scenery outside the windows. But this is pretty crazy. It's pretty neat. I'm interested in seeing how the squadron style. I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna. But speaking of games, though, I am actually really excited for this next game coming out in November, which is the VR experience, the next VR experience called Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. They've released a gameplay trailer and just recently have released the section of the game that involves going back in the past and playing alongside good old Yoda a couple hundred years before The Phantom Menace. The trailer they put out is called Temple of Darkness. And we were just talking about beforehand that this actually is around the High Republic time. So I know, Case, we've talked about this game a little bit, but Cody, what's your you've done the VR Vader thing a little bit, right? I think you play a little bit of that.
I actually haven't played Vader Immortal yet. I've heard you guys talk a lot about it.
Didn't you do did you not do at Celebration? You didn't do the...
Well, I think we talked a little bit about the story. I was in line to do it at Celebration, and I hopped out of line to go to another panel at the time. So it's kind of a bummer. But I I think VR is interesting. I think it's really interesting, especially when you have the lightsaber involvement. I feel like the Tales from Galaxy's Edge stuff looks like fun storytelling that they can continue in that Galaxy's Edge space, especially while people can't necessarily go to Galaxy's Edge necessarily if you're not traveling and whatnot due to the pandemic. So, I mean, I think it's cool. I mean, obviously bringing Yoda back is awesome.
Yeah, I'm interested in just your all's take about about choosing obviously that timeline, because they're about to drop a bunch of stories from that era, comics and novels, the High Republic series. I mean, is it a surprise that or not that this is going to be set in that era and happens to be a couple months before the big release of High Republic case?
I guess I'm a little surprised by it because honestly, our last episode we were just talking about how they need to do this.
Yeah,
and then we talked about the trailer and didn't really realize that it was a High Republic thing. So we were kind of now it's like, no, I'm very excited that it's already going through different mediums outside of just books and comics. So. No, but I'm very curious of the story, so I have no idea what direction it's going to go. But no, very excited.
Yeah, because I think the trailer, highlights this menacing evil or whatever, and it ends up seeming like it's a lot of these little creatures, these things crawling up on the walls.
Part of it, probably, yeah.
Yeah. And also StarWars.com released last week. We talked about a little bit about the look of the. Actually, no. You know what? I think that actually did drop after our episode, where they showed a lot of the villains that are showing up in High Republic, and of course, a look at that doesn't show any Sith or any kind of dark side users. It's creatures and gangsters and underworld type people. So, I don't know, Cody. Do you think this game is kind of still a hint that there's not going to be that dark side users in this era?
Well, I mean, I almost kind of got some of the vibes of like, this idea that dark side, the dark side cave on Dagobah, this idea that a temple could be overrun by things that are evil inherently, or maybe the creatures inherently have a dark side sort of leaning or something like that. I feel like that's maybe a little bit of a peek or a way in. I feel like this will be a bit of a one-off kind of an episode of this, sort of Tales from Galaxy's Edge, the larger story. That's not always set in the High Republic era, but I feel like this is what we've been waiting for, right? Having the comic, the book, the video game that's all tied into this same era, and right now they're choosing High Republic as that space. So, I mean, I'd love to see a lot more. I'm still really holding out that there is dark side involvement in the High Republic, just overall, over all of the mediums. And maybe those creatures are like a step in that direction, or maybe they're just that. They're just fun creatures, for our heroes to fight and be up against, like a Rancor or something, stuff that's just very inherently Star Wars.
So yeah, looking back at that article, kind of tying this all together with the villains, they talked about how there's a group of, I guess, I don't know if it's species. So they're called the Nihil, and they are brutal, savage marauders based in the Outer Rim. And there's pictures of them concept art that they've released, and they look like different. They look like different species, but they have these big headdress masks on. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Like one of the images that they have, there's a Twi'lek. It looks like a Twi'lek there, and it looks like almost the body of a Zabrak, like Darth Maul, and they got these big masks. Somehow they've got to be able to be, fierce competitors to the Jedi if they're not able to use the Force, I guess, in a sense. But so interesting that they've created that. They are an organization. They But they're basically controlling and making their presence felt mostly in the Outer Rim right now during that time. So, but isn't there wasn't there a line when this all started that there was at this point in time in the High Republic, there is some kind of disturbance or something, or some kind of big threat that draws the Jedi away from the core worlds and out to that part of the galaxy to investigate. I think that's pretty much, is that what that is?
I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
The great disaster potentially
yes.
this event that has to do with maybe hyperspace lanes or these Nihil Marauder type. I don't know if they're attacking ships in hyperspace or how that all works out. I know they've got some excerpts that are starting to tease and hint at it. What I thought was just super interesting with the Nihil is that they're kind of the opposite of the Empire. Is that the Empire is like order, control, and they're just chaos.
Yes,
I think that was a really interesting pivot for them to come up with. But I do still think, like you were saying, something that is drawing the Jedi out. Even though they mention like a leader of this Nihil in this article, I still wonder: is there somebody pulling the strings? Is there not Palpatine, but is there a Palpatine type?
Yeah.
That is, making all of this come to pass.
Darth Nihilus from KOTOR, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Quite possibly.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I just always curious when it comes to, just normal beings in a sense, the fight that they could have, the conflict they could actually have with a Jedi. You know what I mean? Like, I know bounty hunters seem to hold their own sometimes against Jedi, which always sometimes confuses me because I don't know why they just don't throw them against a wall and knock them out. But anyway, we'll see. It's very interesting. It is very interesting to see how they work the conflict in against this group, against Jedi, and what is it about them that makes them be competitive against them? Because I guess that's why I think I loved, and I never even read all the stories, but I heard from you, Casey, a lot. That's what I loved about the Vong, right? Is that they're susceptible to the Force, right? You can't be affected by the Force,
right?
In a way. So that was always interesting to hear something like that.
Yeah. Gosh, if it was something like that, that'd be pretty cool. I do. Yeah. Although there's always, what was it? The Grisk was like the other, was like what I think.
Yes.
Talking about the Vong, that was kind of like some people equate them to the Vong, but the Nihil, although I'm not even sure if are they being described as a race of people or if it's just, they're just kind of like a creed, like,
they're like an organization.
The Ravagers from Guardians, it's like, they're just these really fierce, just violent people, so I can see them being a threat like that, where they're just merciless, never stopping, and Jedi, and we still don't quite know what type of Jedi these are yet. I mean, they're supposed to be the peak of their existence and the ultimate Jedi. So I'm thinking that they're very much in line with that peacekeeping mentality. So maybe they don't resort to their Force abilities as often in such extravagant ways.
Yeah,
that could lead to dark side type stuff. So who knows? But I can only think that these type of villains are just, they may be disposed of quickly, but they're just relentless and they just keep coming.
Yeah,
leading to even bigger threat.
I think a lot about like Vikings when you were saying like relentlessness of like, the Vikings weren't necessarily as like skilled or didn't have as much like weaponry when they were, raiding and pillaging. But, they struck quickly and in different parts, of Europe and stuff. So maybe that's how the Nihil are able to catch the Jedi off guard. Smaller pockets, some of these stories are like Padawans that are traveling. And a big group of the Nihil up against, a couple Padawans, now you might have a fair fight.
And that sounds like that's the bulk of our main characters are these up and coming Jedi. We've gotten the cast of characters, like we know who the Masters are and who the Padawans are. It does seem like these Padawans or, newly minted Jedi Knights are kind of the lead of these stories. So maybe it is an experience type thing too, That could be pretty interesting. Yeah, because if Yoda's going in there, they don't stand a chance.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah. Okay, so piggybacking off of that a little bit was, I read an article on a Star Wars news that was pushing this, that EA is in the middle of developing a new Star Wars game. Not necessarily any details on exactly what that is. Rumor is that it's actually the second game in the Fallen Order series that they're trying to fast track. But who knows at this point?
But I actually saw that one of the things they were talking about is EA Motive, which I believe is the company that did Squadrons, is actually already starting a new game, which is in addition to the Fallen Order sequel.
Yes, yeah, because Motive was that was part of Fallen Order as well too, wasn't it?
Motive is the one that I think did the Battlefront, or at least the second Battlefront game. Respawn made Fallen Order.
That's
which
right,
is all
Respawn.
part of EA, but some of these are like their own company, like Respawn. They make other games as well as Fallen Order and Star Wars stuff. So,
right.
But yeah, more Star Wars games.
More Star Wars games. We just need more of them. It's we need a lot more of those.
We need another bounty hunter game. I think I've said it before. We need a Mandalorian game set before the show.
They had one.
Finding bounties, taking names.
They had one. They should have just finished it.
Like the Jango Fett game. That was a great one.
Yes.
Oh, that the old Jango Fett game way back when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never played that. Called Bounty Hunters.
I think it was just called Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
Yes.
Yes. Can't remember the consoles. It was like early PlayStation 2 or GameCube or something like that.
It might have been GameCube.
It was. Yeah. I feel like a game like that, but in a modern setting, or we've talked about an open world setting. You're a bounty hunter, so you can do whatever you want, steal speeders, all these kind of things that a Jedi wouldn't do.
It's Grand Theft Auto, just a bounty hunter, basically.
Grand Theft Bounty Hunter.
Yeah. That'd be great. Okay, so just some releases to be aware of coming up. A Certain Point of View will be out next a week from today, actually, or a week from yesterday, November 10th. The Certain Point of View for The Empire Strikes Back. That will be hitting your shelves. Just announced also this past week the second book coming in the Thrawn Ascendancy novel. It's called Greater Good, and that is coming out actually May the 4th next year. And then in the comics for November, just want to run down the release. You got Star Wars number 8 coming out this week. You got Vader number 7 next week, Bounty Hunters number 7 on the 18th, and then Dr. Aphra number 6 on the 25th. So right now, those are your 4 main comic storylines that are out there in the comic world consistently. And of course, Vader and Star Wars are still that story between Empire and Return of the Jedi. Star Wars Bounty Hunters is actually, I read the first couple. I've got to catch up on those, but that's pretty interesting because Boba Fett is actually in that series. So, and of course, Dr. Aphra, that's her second storyline coming. So, other than that, we've got that's pretty much everything happening in Star Wars world. Now, of course, we will shift to The Mandalorian, and I think Season 2 is back. So first up is, of course, really just talking about the episode itself. So, Cody, I'll let you start. First thoughts on the viewing of it and kind of your overall thoughts of how it's kicking off this season.
I mean, I really think there's just like one word that I feel like I've been telling everybody and like texting friends is just, it felt epic. I mean, I felt like this first premiere for season 2 might be one of my favorite. I mean, it's hard to rank it with other episodes, but as strong of a start and as a singular episode, I feel like it had a little bit of everything. I mean, I feel like you can tell that Favreau not only wrote, but he directed this episode. It felt like a mini movie, felt very cinematic. A lot of homages that are like in the Western genre. And I think Favreau even said it on one of the documentaries. He's trying to be inspired by the things that George was inspired by. Not necessarily copying Star Wars, copying George, but getting inspired by what George was watching, these adventure serial type things. I mean, this really felt like, you know, it moved the story forward, not a ton, had some awesome surprises, but it felt like this interesting side shoot adventure that was grounded in you know, of course we're probably talking spoilers here, right?
Sure.
In where Mando was headed, you know, the fact, you know, trying to find other Mandalorians. But, you know, it felt like if we got episodes like this throughout the season or seasons, I would be okay if it prolonged the idea of the end game of where he's going to take Baby Yoda. Because this really, you know, you have a crate dragon. I mean, how incredible is that?
Yeah.
So I loved it. I thought it was super fun. Yeah, very cinematic.
Pace.
I pretty much agree with most of all what you said. Definitely, one thing that hit me with the story, like it didn't progress it a whole lot, but then again, I mean, we don't quite know how the story is going to unfold just yet, because maybe Boba Fett is the key to taking Mando to the Jedi. You know, I've been thinking a lot about how he's going to play out, if he's going to be straight up a villain immediately, or more so a friend for a little while. So who knows? But nonetheless, that's a cool, very cool reveal. Like I write, I kind of like not live tweet, but kind of like write down my notes of my thoughts as I'm watching it. And it's just, read through it again. And it's just like all these questions and then answers and then like reactions. So it definitely was, it felt, you know, reading through it, it does feel like it was epic. And when you see the little spikes through the sand with the crate dragon, yeah, it was just like, I was amazed that they did that they, you know, attempted and succeeded at that, because it felt, I mean, even the effects of it all, like, didn't feel like it was a low budget action piece. Like, it felt like they put some time and effort into it to making it look very, very good. And I can't imagine, I mean, I guess, you know, we were all surprised by the visual effects of the first season with the volume. Sorry. But so this episode's like, I can imagine they shot that crate dragon fight scene on volume. Now, how did they do?
It felt like movie quality. I thought the VFX. I mean, honestly,
yeah.
I've watched it a few times now since the first viewing, and I totally agree. I think,
but that's why I think I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's why I think, I can't remember if I think I might have texted it in our chat, but like, do you think so? What do you think? Do you think that those frames were full CG'd, or do you think that they utilized the CG, they just threw it up on the volume and used it as a backdrop, as a practical, when they practically shot it? You know, I don't.
Yeah, I do think anytime you saw like conversations, people standing looking, reactions, I'm sure that was all on the volume. Everything else, I would think it was CG, but I would think it would be in the style of like Favreau, this technology, the in-game rendering of like Lion King and all this stuff. So it, you know, using photorealistic plates and shooting it even as a film, but in a virtual, you know, thing, exactly how he did Lion King. Shooting it virtually, so it's all CG, but they're executing it very much like a live action show. I mean, because it was incredible. I mean, just when it escalated to the level of the Great Dragon popping up through the mountains, because I kept thinking like, oh, this is Trimmer's rules, just hop on some rocks and they can't get to you. But he just the thing just kept busting through, and it was so exciting. But overall, yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. Again, I wish maybe it progressed it. If I had to find something wrong with it, like, maybe it should have progressed the story a little further. But again, maybe it did. We just don't quite know how much yet. Because I'm sure we'll get Cobb Vanth again. Timothy Oliphant's too good at, just to be a one note guy. And so that would be great to see him again.
Maybe I'll see you again.
Yeah, no, it's like, okay.
I'm paraphrasing, but you got to think,
I hope our paths crossed again or something like that. And Mando says, like, me too. So it's, they definitely became instant best friends, I think. Very cool. And it's just, yeah, I definitely loved it. And Baby Yoda obviously was very cute, very funny. So it was good. Pretty good.
I think, a couple things there. I think Baby Yoda definitely took a supporting role in this episode. He was just really there in the background. He really didn't do much to move it, because I think, the motivation right now for Mando is definitely the mission of finding other Mandalorians. I definitely loved how it didn't take a while to get going. I mean, he walks right in, gets, lays out what his mission is, and then ultimately, fights off a bunch of guys before he finds out the direction to go. So let's talk about Cobb Vanth a little bit, because, we talked about last week, Case, that we definitely feel like these rumors are starting to come true. All the ones that we've heard Timothy was, none of these people still have not been confirmed by Lucasfilm as being cast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they did put out an image of Timothy Oliphant as Cobb Vance on the Disney Plus or the Mandalorian account, finally.
Finally. Oh, okay.
On Monday, they've kind of deemed Monday as, like, I think unofficially, by putting that image out, everybody's like, okay, Monday, we can talk spoilers.
Yes.
Give everybody the weekend to watch, but Monday, we're going to hit it hard.
Yeah, the only official thing that I'm just now remembering is, I can't remember what country it was, that country's Disney Plus Instagram account, this was like a month or so ago, it's a story where the guy was reading off press releases, if there was something like that, and he mentioned Timothy Oliphant and Rosario Dawson in Mandalorian.
Yes, that's right.
Everybody was freaking out about it, so I'm sure that was a mistake on like, he should have done that, but that pretty much confirmed those two actors. But yeah, I'm like, at the end of this episode, I was just like, well, I'm like Han Solo. It's all true. It's just all true. I'm believing everything now. Like, I'm going into it like trying so hard to keep my expectations pretty level. But as soon as they're kind of like teetering around, I think I saw a Mandalorian on Tatooine, and then boom, we got the title of the Marshal. I'm like, okay, here we go. And then at the very end, it's like, okay, it's all happening. Boba Fett, it's all happening. So I'm in it.
I mean, what a crazy deep cut. I mean, you got to think that it's Filoni and the whole story group with Favreau, because you think Favreau, maybe he read Aftermath, probably didn't read the interlude. I didn't even finish the first book, but I did dive into the interlude chapters after. Cobb Vanth's awesome.
I mean, totally. That story specifically, it has lingered for years. People have been waiting for that payoff.
Yep.
And thankfully, Favreau.
Yeah, I mean, it was even to the point that it wasn't actually fully confirmed it was Boba Fett's armor either,
right?
As far as the novels go. So we have been waiting for that. Do what?
I said we knew.
Yeah, I know. But one of the questions it kind of raised for me though too is there is a little bit of a continuity issue with the interlude from Aftermath, and actually I think there's two of them. I think there's another interlude in Life Debt that goes back and tells another story of Cobb Vanth. That that little, conflicts a little bit with the story that he told Mando. So I'm curious to know from you guys, what do you think about the importance, really, of that continuity, especially because, Casey, we've always had a conversation about how, which I think we're getting that now, when are we going to see some of these prominent characters that were introduced in the novels or the games or the comics get translated into that live action, or even just in an animated series? We've got that now with Cobb. We got that with, I think, actually was the first one kind of Saul Guerrero was possibly the first one.
So in this kind of new canon era, I would definitely think that.
So, Saul was easy because it was a different time period, right? We saw him when he was younger, and then we saw him when he was older in Rogue One. I think we're going to get obviously a lot more of that coming soon, possibly with Ahsoka and Bo-Katan and, Sabine, if all those things are true. I think eventually, I just have a feeling eventually it's possible we might get a Hera in live action. We might get Rey Sloane. I think Dr. Aphra is inevitable.
Yep.
So what about that transition, and how much of that continuity is that important, for one, to you, and then for the other is actually to the overall storytelling? Cody?
Well, it's a great question, a great point. And I feel like I know a little bit, so I've actually listened to it, and it's really interesting. Cobb Vanth, the guy that voices him, I think it might be Mark Thompson, I can't recall. He is a little bit different overall direction. Now, all that kind of stuff I can totally get by in different voice actor, live action actor. Because Timothy Olyphant is awesome, and he is the sheriff in everything, and he kills it. So I'm okay that he had a little bit more of a charming quality. Yet he's a tough guy. The Cobb Vanth in the stories was one note. I'm going to mention the two discrepancies that I think you're talking about. One is he leaves out a not really a key part, but a part of when he purchases the armor from the Jawas. I can't recall if he actually had any money or the crystals, but there was a guy that was trying to purchase it. I think he was a part of that mining collective that whatever the red key
is,
was there with him, and he actually Cobb Vanth actually kind of stole it from him, so to speak. The other guy was trying to buy it, he also wanted it, and then he ended up branding that guy with I think a knife or something, to then go and tell his other bosses, the other people in the collective, hey, there's this guy, Cobb Vanth, who's making a statement. So he's a bit more intense and vicious in the books. And then the second one being that I think it's later in one of the other books where the mining collective actually comes back after Cobb Vanth has driven them out of Mos Pelgo, which is called Freetown. In the book, the Tusken Raiders are actually a part of helping them drive them out. So that's one big part that they diverted from. Now, in my mind, story-wise, Cobb Vanth could be an unreliable narrator. He could have left out the part that he got in an altercation with another person at the Jawa, when he got the armor. So, unreliable narrator, that's one way to chalk up discrepancies, which is kind of an easy thing. The Tusken Raider part, to me, could go two ways. It could go, yeah, sure, they helped out, or they were also just around in the scuffle, and then after the fact, they came and tried to raid Mos Pelgo, and then it started this sort of battle between them, and Cobb Vanth said that he had, killed some Tusken Raiders. Or the real life example, non-story, is that where I would want to see this is if we have to get a character as cool and interesting as Cobb Vanth in a live action show, and they have to change some stuff to make it better, I think it's okay. A better story was showing how the Mandalorian could bring the Tusken Raiders together with these people from Mos Pelgo in order for a common good, right? Now you're seeing the Mando be a leader, bringing people together, uniting people. Now you get the idea that maybe Mando could unite other Mandalorians, other coverts. It's these story things that I think are important. Whereas if the Tusken Raiders were already, cool with Mos Pelgo and with Cobb Vanth, the story doesn't really have anywhere to go there beyond just the battle with the Krayt Dragon. So that's more of a real life, maybe a writing story example where, sure, if one writer of a book writes Cobb Vanth in a couple paragraphs and establishes something kind of small, like Tusken Raiders helping them out, and then Favreau decides that he wants to establish it that they have a bad relationship when we first see them, I can chalk that up to two different stories. I think the live action one was better, or it served the story better for the Tusken Raiders to not, to have that sort of feud. So I can live with that.
Interesting. Because I think the argument that some people I've read that are making, and one that we've touched on a little bit with Story Group, that there's always there's always different perspectives of the same story, right? So if the three of us, lived through the same situation, my version of the story could be a little different than your story, than Casey's story, right? So, I know on Wikipedia, when you look up Cobb Vanth, whoever was in charge of putting that together on there right now and adding this episode on there with the stories from the books, they've tried, and I encourage everybody go look at that. They've tried to figure out a way to make those two stories come together as one timeline so that they all have happened. But like you said, parts are, the part where he explains to Mando, he just left out maybe pieces of what happened. So, for example, in the Wikipedia, when he is, because in the book, he's not wandering the desert with crystals, in a container and then gets picked up by Jawas. In the novel, he actually seeks out the Jawas to look for weapons and droids. And so you can say that, okay, he just changed that part of the story. And then while he's in there and he sees the armor, that's when the other guy comes in and they kind of have a conflict over the armor and, whatnot. And then, so that's where Wikipedia kind of makes it meld together in a sense. So again, I don't know how much I'm not sure how much I'm bothered by that. I think I've kind of been a little conditioned to believe that, anything that happens in live action supersedes canon wise anything that's in the novels or the comics and stuff like that. So if that's the case, I guess that's the case. If that's the way it is, that's the way it is. But I do like them to be as cohesive as they could be and can be, because it allows anybody to, actually go back and be able to read that backstory or that connection with another character. And I think it just allows people to really dive into different mediums that they maybe wouldn't have in the first place. So I don't know where you're at, Case, with that.
Sorry, my AC is kicking on, so sorry if you hear that in the background. But no, I think it depends on a couple of things, I guess. I mean, for one, like how much material there already is on that character. So, like, if you're, you mentioned a lot of characters earlier. Like one, thinking of Dr. Aphra. There's already so much with her already, and such a devoted fan base to her already. If you go and then, so for one, there's a lot of content there. So then what would you change and what's that line? So it's, to me, the no would be anything that you're changing that would change kind of the DNA of her character, I guess, like personality, appearance, even if background in terms of, again, how much does that affect who she is? And, if she wasn't, I don't know, like if she, like her profession is different, I don't know. So it's just, there's so many different things. I think that would affect that. For Cobb Vanth, there's just not much there for him. So, yeah. the coolest part of him, from what I can remember of those vignettes, was the fact that he does find the armor and becomes a marshal, sheriff, whatever. That's it. I mean, those are his story beats.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
So it's, and they got that. So everything else was very little of his story, and I don't even remember too much of it. So, because I was thinking as I was watching it, as these flashbacks, thinking like, I wonder how close this is to Aftermath. I mean, so far the big things, because I was waiting for, it's like, I'm waiting for him to find the armor. I'm waiting for him to become the Marshal, and those things happen. So that was great. Honestly, though, those flashbacks in the episode weren't even 100% relevant, I don't think. I mean, if they weren't in there, people wouldn't be complaining about the discrepancies as much, probably, and I think we'd still have a great episode. Just a little less Timothy Olyphant, which is not the best thing in the world, but anytime we get more scenes with him is the coolest. So, but yeah, I think it just kind of depends. We're talking this season. If we're getting, again, I'm just going to say yes to everything. We're getting Ahsoka, we're getting Sabine, we're getting Bo-Katan. So if they start changing, gosh, like Ahsoka is definitely a huge character now. So
yeah,
I can imagine what they would change to make people upset. There's quite a bit that they could change with her, because there is a lot of rich stuff with her.
Well, you bring up a good point. I think that I think Ahsoka is a different situation, just because there's a television series already around her. So
but like
more than I think.
Book. Larger leap from book to
correct. Yeah, which again, you bring up Dr. Aphra. That is, I've read her comics. I read her audiobook. I mean, her upbringing, her whole life almost is pretty much laid out. I mean, what planet she's from, what her situation was with her parents, how she was with her childhood. Her profession, the people that she's interacted with now, and she's spanning, a big part of the original trilogy right now. So, yeah, it would be, gosh, if they ended up doing a series about her, or she ends up in some movie, to change something of her would be pretty significant.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, you think of the extremes of Dr. Aphra show, and like she's never met Darth Vader before, or she doesn't have her droids, or was it the Wookiee bounty hunter, or Son of Staros? It's like if her stories in live action take place after all that, which have molded her, and yet the live action pretends they didn't even exist. I don't know. So that's the extreme version, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Like they have to acknowledge quite a bit with her. But if you're talking Ray Sloan, so it's like her Imperial background. So it's like what could they ignore? I'm thinking maybe things that happened in what was it, A New Dawn? Was that the first book of her? So I mean, I'm not sure what importance of her character, besides the fact that she started at such a low position and rose. That's her beat, I feel like, from that book. So everything else maybe they could adjust a little bit, but the fact that she becomes Grand Admiral, right? And leads the Imperials into the unknown regions. So that's huge.
Huge.
Gallius Rex, all that stuff. That's huge. So
yes.
I feel like those main beats, like you're mentioning, I feel like this episode gives us hope that they will do it the right way, even if they take some creative liberties. Cobb Vanth, you guys all hit on it. He finds the armor. He drives the mining collective out. It's really all you need to get. Maybe there's subtle backstory elements about the fact that he was a slave and this was like a slave town kind of thing that helped make his character more interesting or compelling. But, I think if they hit those, I mean, here's one that I think we've talked about, may not ever happen. Maul fights Obi-Wan on Tatooine, happens in Rebels. We all thought it was super awesome, but then I think that same week after, or when they announced the Obi-Wan show, or it was rumored, we're all like, oh man, why didn't they just save this for the Obi-Wan show? Because how awesome would that showdown be? Well, you know what? Now we could get it again. And the fight doesn't have to last. I mean, it was kind of cool that it was like a samurai thing and it was like 10 seconds, but the fight doesn't have to last 10 seconds now. It can last for 20 minutes. And just the simple fact that if Obi-Wan beats Maul, same outcome.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
So I feel like this gives us hope that there could be differences that won't really break the bank. There'll be a couple people that are like, that's not how it happened the first time. But honestly, like, I think that they realize the amount of people watching The Mandalorian versus the amount of people that read the interlude chapter on Cobb Vanth. Like, they have the ability to make the story better if it can be better. And that's all opinion based, but
yeah.
Simplify. Like, Cobb Vanth had a lot of complexities, right? That extra guy from the mining collective that was there to also get the armor, unnecessary. So they just took it out.
Yeah. Well, I know what Pablo Hidalgo would say. He would say, you weren't there. How would you know what happened?
That's right.
It could have been this way. All we know is that these major things happen. So the details are irrelevant to an extent.
The details, yeah.
Frustrated by that, but now I'm coming around.
Me too.
Totally.
It would help the Obi-Wan and Maul. It's like no one else was there besides Maul, Obi-Wan, and I mean, I don't think it was even Ezra there. It's been a while since I've seen that. So it's like, how do we know?
Yeah. Maybe a Womp Rat.
Yeah, no Womp Rat.
Yeah.
I think they said Womp Rat like 5 million times in that.
Probably, it could have came from Obi-Wan's journal, and then he just lied about it, saying, exactly. I just beat him in 10 seconds. Super easy.
Like, he was a wimp. I held him like a baby.
Okay, so let's get into the big, obviously the big reveal, which is Boba Fett. So Cody, you kind of hit on it. You believe that he is from Episode 5. That is Obi-Wan, and what do you think? I think the next thing we'll talk about is kind of our expectations for Episode 2. But what is Boba Fett's significance now to this series, and do you think that has already been predetermined by Favreau? Like, he knows what we're doing with this character now.
Well, I think this is all really interesting, and I think there's some behind the scenes stuff at play that we may not ever be privy to. But I feel like Favreau just always wanted to use Boba Fett, and maybe even when he started The Mandalorian, maybe wanted to.
Yes.
They were maybe making a movie. I think it was I'm forgetting the guy who directed Logan.
Mangold.
Yes.
Yeah. James Mangold,
rumored or attached to a Boba Fett movie. Now not happening, obviously. So maybe now they just gave him the keys to Boba Fett, and he's just going to unleash that. I think this is an awesome addition. I think now that we've had enough time with The Mandalorian, with Din, if we do see them together in scenes against each other as adversaries, I will root for Din. We'll root for Baby Yoda if they pit them against each other. I think that's what's really interesting and yet to be seen. I mean, the music, when they show Boba at the end, it's ominous. It's I went back the second time and tried to pay more attention. The music in this whole episode is great, by the way. Quick little aside. When he's riding into Mos Pelgo, it's this awesome Western kind of motif. Been off of the Mandalorian themes we've heard, and the Tusken Raiders coming in, super great. But at the very end, they've got these ominous tones. Could be to trick us a bit, but you start to think, okay, why, if he was the character, which I believe in Episode 5 of Season 1, that was walking up to Fennec Shan, why was he doing that? Was he the person that was meant to rendezvous with Fennec? Because she said she was rendezvousing with somebody. I thought she mentioned Imperial at one point, so that kind of throws me. But why has Boba been on Tatooine for 5-ish years? 5 or 6 years? You'd think if he knew Cobb Vanth had his armor, he'd have taken it from him already. Because as cool as Cobb Vanth is, and I may be the biggest new Cobb Vanth fan, Boba would have easily gotten that armor back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really interesting. I think a really cool thought that I had thought, and I made some notes. It just had Boba Fett in all caps, but then below it, I also wrote, could he become this fake ally enemy of a very common trope in a hero's journey? You get the idea that maybe Favreau, Filoni are taking from the things that George was inspired by with the hero's journey, this idea of a person that, was he a Mandalorian? Wasn't he? George says he wasn't. Filoni says he wasn't. But who's to say? I kind of think that Jango was at one point. Maybe isn't living that way, but an opportunity for Boba to be redeemed, to become a Mandalorian by Creed, to show Din that the armor doesn't make you a Mandalorian. You know, I think those kind of themes are present in Iron Man, which Favreau also directed. You know, if you're nothing without the suit, then you're nothing. Mm-hmm. Din needs to be put in those positions. I don't know if they'll go into it all in season 2. I don't know if you can lose the armor for your main character that early, but I'd love to see Boba challenge him in ways that are more than just like a blaster showdown. And I'd also love to see a blaster shootout.
Yeah, I'm with you on the armor. I was thinking about that earlier, that I think that one of the themes that I think it has to be addressed during not just this season, but maybe a little bit within the series is I'm not sure you can go on this entire series and not see Pedro. You have such a massive actor behind that mask. And what we've heard in rumors is that he's actually playing the Mandalorian more this season, if not the entire time. Because if you're not going to ever see him, why even take him to set? You just do the voiceover, and just hire a stunt man that's cheaper. So I think that there's an opportunity there with Boba. Like you said, we know from the other mediums that this new mandate that you can never take your mask off in front of anybody is in this new generation of Mandalorians. That's not the case back when we've seen them in the Clone Wars. So they were all taking their masks off, and it wasn't that level of now it could have been maybe on a different planet, maybe we're not aware of, because there was several planets that had Mandalorians on it. In fact, Jango is from one of them called Concord Dawn, right? So he was a Mandalorian, but he didn't, like you said, practice as a Mandalorian, and was somewhat cast out by the council there on the planet. So that is an opportunity I feel like Boba could have with him, show him that, look, you don't have to, like you said, follow the creed to be a Mandalorian, and you can actually let people see your face and know who you are, kind of thing. So I do think that is a possibility of happening. And if not with him, maybe Bo-Katan and Sabine, if he ever comes across them, that could happen. So, okay, so your take on what happens to Boba Fett from here?
I definitely it could be a number of things, but I definitely like thinking maybe he starts off as the ally, maybe even like a mentor type thing. Almost, the first thing that pops in my head is like the Flash, the first season of the Flash, Harrison Wells, Professor Zoom, whatever, but reverse Flash. Because I wonder if Boba Fett would take on like a mentor thing. If Din has heard of him, which I don't know, he might have, maybe he hasn't. To like want to learn from him and something, but secretly I think Boba Fett could still very much be bent on revenge. And I'm just super excited about the possibilities of connecting the prequels to this show, and him telling Din about his past, his father. Yes. My father was killed by Jedi, that kind of a thing. And like, I watched my father die by a Jedi. Man. It's like, I cannot wait for something like that. I hope something like that happens. So, but I don't know if that's like going to be immediate. So I'm thinking like, it would be cool if he at least lets Din know that he knows the Jedi. Like, he's aware of him. He can help him track him down because he's had history of doing that before. So he helps him find the Jedi, only to try to exterminate them. and maybe he wants to exterminate Baby Yoda too. So he's secretly trying to just take out his plot against the Jedi. Because you're right, what's he been doing all these years? But besides plotting, I would guess plotting
that
something.
Gives me a lot of vibes of like Cassian's role in part of Rogue One. I mean, he turns good, but he has a conflict with Jyn Erso about Galen.
Yeah.
And it's hidden from our main character, so I think that's really cool. I hadn't thought as much about him aiming to go after the Jedi, but it makes perfect sense that he would maybe keep that from Din. At first, I thought maybe he would tell Din that like the Jedi are bad, and it would challenge his whole mission.
He might say that too.
I think your idea is a lot stronger, that he keeps that hidden only to, potentially take his revenge.
Well, the other option would be he's taking revenge against Han Solo, but that's never going to happen in this. So even though that would be pretty cool, he tries to look for Han Solo. But anywho, I don't know. I'm hopeful we see him very soon. This isn't going to be a long payoff.
Well, that's the next part of this where do we go in the second episode? Because I think that we stick around Tatooine for another episode, if not 2 episodes, because I like to think of the first 3 episodes of season 1 as the first kind of story arc, right? He finds the child and delivers the child and frees the child by the end of the 3rd episode. And it took 2 episodes for him to actually leave the planet, right? Because there's that run-in with the Jawas and the Mudhorn and all that stuff. So I actually think that's why we didn't see him leave Tatooine at the end of this thing. I think there's going to be more story there. I think I don't think we even mentioned it. The rumored title of this episode coming this week is called The Confrontation. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but they're not releasing the titles and descriptions like they did last year. So something is secret. I think they're just trying to keep everything close to the chest this year. But so I think we're going to get Boba Fett fully in this next episode. I don't think he goes beyond that. I don't think he leaves Tatooine and goes with Din. I think he does get his armor back and maybe tries to pick up back where he was. But Boba Fett's a little older. He's maybe out of the game a little bit. I don't know. Who knows? But that is a big question: did he lose the armor, or did he actually give the armor away? Maybe he got out of the Sarlacc and was like, just done with it. I don't know.
I'm tired.
Yeah,
I don't do this anymore.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Is like, because I've gone back and forth of like, obviously you think that maybe the Krayt Dragon they mentioned killed the Sarlacc, and that gave Boba his opportunity to escape.
Right.
Maybe lost the armor in the process. But then you wonder, is the armor important to Boba? Because to me, if it's the same armor, which I assume it is, it's his dad's, it's Jango's. And his connection with Jango, with his father, and his potential wanting revenge for that, I would think the armor is important to him. But then you also look at, he's been on Tatooine potentially for a long time, or for the whole time. Why did he never go get it? Will he want it back?
Right.
Or is he like past it, like you were kind of proposing? So I think it's a really interesting question, is like, has he already grown as a character when we meet him or see him again? Or is he going to go right back into the Boba we knew, in it for the money, out for revenge, the baddest dude in the galaxy kind of thing?
Right.
I don't even know. I wouldn't be surprised if it's revealed that he didn't stick on Tatooine for this long. I mean, he's a very resourceful guy, so that we've heard. Obviously, we haven't really seen him do anything. So who knows? But if we got in Filoni's wish in Clone Wars, we would have seen him do a lot more. But so perhaps this is Filoni's closure on the Boba Fett character as well. Along with working with Favreau's wish to write him. But but I'm thinking, like, what if Boba Fett has been working on something and some kind of plot, and he's been going off planet? I mean, if he knows Fennec Shand, I don't know, has he been just working on Tatooine this whole time, making connections with the underworld that reach beyond the planet. So to me, it would make sense if he has been going off and doing these things, working the scene a little bit, working the galaxy a little bit towards some kind of goal. But I mean, I guess
he's still a bounty hunter.
Yeah, but I don't think so. I think maybe he may be working on something else. But I mean,
that's true, because I think it could be. I hate to say it, but it might be almost a repeat of like Darth Maul, where since Jabba was killed, who's going to take over the crime syndicate in a sense on Tatooine? So maybe he rises up and does that, and he is the. I mean, he could be in charge. He could eventually take care of that mining syndicate in a sense, or to terrorize and take over Tatooine. So anyway, there is that, because if you think, that might have been too quick. If he got out of the Sarlacc and he was the one behind, those the Red Key group to go around, start taking over Tatooine. So, but that is an interesting thought. Is that maybe he's, running things behind the scenes. And Fennec, Fennec, like you said, meeting up with Fennec, he had to get someone killed, so he was, hiring Fennec to go assassinate somebody. So that's definitely a possibility. I actually like that a lot.
But I mean, I guess like you, Dave, I don't see him in every episode, following the heroes. But I mean, gosh, he's a big character. I can't imagine he'd be over and done with after the first three. Maybe he'll come back at the end with Cobb Vanth again. So who knows? I mean, again, it's my whole worry about this whole thing is they're packing so much into this season, but I'm just going to assume all these rumors are true. So who knows how much they're going to fit into it.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if they're going to use him like Nick Nolte's character, like Quill.
Oh, yeah.
I think you mentioned the mentor thing, Dave, about how he was in just the second episode.
That's right.
Or he was in the first episode. And then we don't see him again after like episode 3 until like 7, right?
Quill's in 2.
He was in 2 just because he helped to get the Jawas, and then he came back in 7 and died in 8. Yeah, at the end of 7.
I could see something like that where like he's in 1. He was technically in 1 for like a second. Mm-hmm. In episode 2, don't see him again until the last 2 episodes, and somehow he has. I mean, it's shaping up to being one of the coolest episodes. I mean, you could have Moff Gideon versus Din with Ahsoka and Boba Fett. I don't know who's on whose team, but that seems like an awesome.
Literally like a kid with all these action figures and like, what do I do? Let's just have them fight each other.
Gosh, yeah.
So Din versus Boba, Ahsoka versus Gideon. Because they've got the
lightsabers,
and then
that's right.
And fighting it out.
Okay, so last speculation question really is, we talked about rumors of characters showing up. Who do you think is the next character that shows up at some point? The rumors.
I'll just say Sabine. I'll say Sabine. Mm-hmm.
Cody, what do you think?
I think it's going to be Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing with this whole finding Mandalorians, like he mentioned, and I think it was kind of breezed over, that he's looking for a way to travel the network of coverts.
Yes.
So I feel like maybe he's met the fake Mandalorian, Cobb. Maybe he'll meet a bad version of a mentor in Boba, and then he'll meet a better mentor in Bo-Katan, but will also challenge him and take her helmet off or not have armor. So I feel like he's going to meet these different types of Mandalorians that are going to challenge his whole worldview.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm very excited is the fact that Mando doesn't know hardly anything about the state of the galaxy. He is learning so much so fast, and we all know. That's why it's so much of this dramatic irony is like we all know what he's about to experience with the Jedi and somewhat experience with the Mandalorians if these rumors are true, like you said, Cody, with Bo-Katan, and even if he meets Sabine and sees that side of the Mandalorian, this other background, with her. So yeah, like I'm excited for him to learn all these things that we have learned.
I'm gonna go. I think I was leaning towards Bo-Katan. Because I feel like Ahsoka is still such a bigger reveal later.
Yeah. She's the Luke at the end of the season.
Exactly. And I think
Baby Yoda.
I think with her you'll get Sabine. So I want to say Bo-Katan because I think somehow sooner than later we've got to start hearing the connection and what happened with the Darksaber with her, because she's the one we last known that held it besides Gideon. So
well, here's what's crazy. I just thought of when I watched this last episode and realized Moff Gideon's not in it. Nobody besides us and Moff Gideon and his close friends know that he has the Darksaber.
Yes.
Din hasn't seen it.
No.
Doesn't even know what it is. So Moff Gideon's going to show up and wreck somebody with that Darksaber.
Mm-hmm.
And like somebody's losing a limb.
Yeah.
Is all I'm like, that's
agreed. That's true. No one's seen it. So all right. So yeah, that's good discussions. I'm sure we'll have more next week. Episode 2 of The Mandalorian drops Friday morning, like 3 a.m. I'm not going to do getting up like I did this past week that early. I think 6 o'clock is when I'm usually up. I'll watch it then. But man, Case, you went almost all day without seeing it.
I had, there's a little challenging,
yeah. When did you catch it, Cody? In the morning?
I did 3 o'clock. I set a little alarm.
Nice.
Managed to not wake my wife up. It was perfect. Went and watched on the couch, cuddled up to a blanket, Mandalorian. I'm like freaking out, but trying to keep it quiet and not have the TV too
quiet
loud to
squeals.
wake up my house. So it's like I kind of got to catch it before my son wakes up anyway.
Yeah.
So it's either got to be like, right at 6 a.m. or something, or try to do 3. I might try to do 3 again. Friday's actually my birthday, so I feel like nice little birthday present.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nice.
Episode of Mando, wake up early.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Problem is I couldn't go back to sleep after I saw episode 1. I don't know if you had the same problem.
I did. For a little while, I did, because I was so... But, luckily, I actually laid in my bed and watched it on my phone, so... I was able to just kind of contemplate for a little while, and about half hour later, I was able to fall asleep. But if I would have gotten up and got on the couch, I don't think I would have been able to go back to bed. So
yeah,
good job,
Cody. That's so funny. Like it reminds me of like when I was a kid, waking up at crack of dawn, in the middle of the night to catch the latest Digimon episode or whatever it was, or Monster Rancher.
It totally felt like Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, waking up
like this fun adventure.
Yeah.
And it was, it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So East Coast 3 a.m. is when we noticed that it dropped midnight on West Coast time. So, of course, check out Martin Donison and myself on the Mandalore podcast. That drops every Mondays. Big in-depth discussions about the previous episode that just came out. So, catch that. Of course, catch us next week. I'm going to try to get the 3 of us back together as we break down episode 2 and look forward to episode 3. We only got 8 of these, so we got to enjoy them, man. They'll be done before we know it. Thanks, everybody. Go to InsideTheForce.com and our YouTube channel to watch us or catch all of these episodes on our podcast feeds whenever you download podcast episodes. Give us a like and subscribe, and come back each week. We got some more episodes of Council Sessions coming out too, so check that out on our YouTube channel. Thanks, Cody, for hanging out.
Thanks. Can I do a quick quote? Because I got a great one from this episode.
Of course.
I guess every once in a while, both suns shine on a womp rat's tail. Cobb Vanth.
Yeah, I didn't catch that the first time he says it. He says both suns. Is that what he says?
Both suns. Yep.
Nice.
Just a kid from Tatooine wearing Boba's armor.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Case.
Yeah, man. Thanks, everybody.
No quote from you. You used to do quotes all the time.
I'll do the crate dragon sound. No.
Yeah. Okay.
That's Obi-Wan's job.
That is everyone's job. Did you ever go back and check that out?
I haven't yet. I'm just because I'm going to assume it's different. But I do need to.
I think it's there a little bit. Cody, I don't know if you noticed like the crate sound, but see, the thing about it is there's two different crate dragons, though. Because
was that officially said?
It's official now because. Before it was just crate dragon, but ever since this thing came out, because this thing is massive, like this is not the size of a normal crate dragon. So now they characterized them as a canyon crate, which was in the encyclopedias, called a canyon crate. And that's what we've been used to is the canyon crate dragon, which is not that as big as that, but it's pretty big. This is actually called a great crate. So a great crate dragon, which is this massive, just enormous that can swim under the sand. I'm not necessarily sure that the canyon crates are more above ground.
I mean, I would just assume that the one shown in A New Hope was just a younger crate dragon, not fully grown. But the one that we saw, I mean, honestly, I didn't say it yet, but like, if you played KOTOR, you kill a crate dragon in the first KOTOR game. Almost the exact same way they tried to kill this one.
With Banthas. And then there's Tusken Raiders.
You lay out these mines, and the hope is that the crate walks over the mines and gets blown up, and the crate does, and then you go take the pearl from its stomach, just like they did in this episode.
But that crate was on the top of the...
Yeah, the look was different. I mean, this is KOTOR. This is all years ago.
Yeah, but that one is the one that because apparently that, I think I'd have to see what that looks like, but that canyon crate dragon officially actually shows up in the game. It's the mobile game, Game of Heroes, or
Hero.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, Galactic Heroes, I think. So it actually shows up in that, very similar to probably what you're talking about, where you have to fight a crate dragon. So they call that one a canyon crate. It does have a pearl inside of it, just like all the crate dragons have pearls inside of them. So, but the great crate, this is the first time we've seen anything like this. But you're right, the skeleton in A New Hope is a great crate. It is maybe a little small. I guess they come in different sizes, or that one's a younger one. But anyway, so there is a difference there, and this, because this crate dragon that we see in Mandalorian does have legs. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, it's got 5 sets of legs, which allows it to swim through the sand pretty easily. That's what it's doing. So, anyway, pretty crazy. I was blown away by the size of the thing. As soon as it popped out and ate that bantha, I was like, oh, man, can't kill that thing. How the hell can you kill that thing? But they figure out a way. Yeah. Put some bombs on a bantha and let it eat it.
Yeah, I don't know why they did it in the first place. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, they're just going to put that, and they're going to feed that to him and blow it up. But no. Okay.
Yeah, true. Okay, thanks, guys. Enjoy Mandalorian. We will catch up next week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Take care. Have a great week. May the Force be with you.